Good morning, everybody. Greetings and salutations. It's Larsen. Halleck. It is June 3rd, 2023. It's June, and you know what that means. We opened up, of course, with the Pride Fighting Championship theme song because it's June, and that's what we're celebrating, right? Pride Month. We're celebrating the long dead, but dearly beloved and very much missed Pride Fighting Championship. Otoko da! Men amongst men, come out! Oh, that feeling when I'll never fight in the Tokyo Dome in front of 100,000 people. And it's a damn shame how the organization was, horrifically corrupt. Yeah, it turns out the Yakuza are not the best business partners to be in bed with. Anyway, by the way, just a heads up, people, there's not going to be a stream next Saturday because it is my niece's first birthday party. She's turning 1, and she warms the cockles of my cold, dead heart. So I have to see her. Yes, but it's actually not something from Shadow of the Colossus, although it is kind of similar if you think about it. You know, Pride FC was Japan's and actually the world's predominant mixed martial arts organization, and the atmosphere of the show was very video game-esque, I would assume. You know, this is like the late 90s, early 2000s. This is when Japan was a major pop culture titan, much more so than it is today. Sibung Messiah says Boss Rutin was a legend. Yes, he is. Liver punching his way into our hearts. So yeah, the Shadow of the Colossus comparison is pretty fitting, especially since Pride would frequently do open weight matches where men who look like Christmas elves fought giant fat slobs. So yeah, it's very Colossus-esque. But no. That is not what this month is about. This month is about state-enforced homosexuality. One of several months, and by several months I mean basically half the year if you go into various jurisdictions, dedicated to non-heteronormative sexual activity. And that brings us right to the news. Breaking news. The newest global human rights whoop-de-doo we're all supposed to be paying attention to is that Uganda is criminalizing homosexuality in varying degrees. According to the New York Times, President Yoweri Museveni is signing a bill which can put people in prison for up to a decade for engaging in the homosex. In addition, it also decrees the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, whatever that is, defined as relations with children, handicapped people, under threat people, or while unconscious. And I'll be honest, I'm 100% for the death penalty being given to rapists and child molesters. And no, I'm not going to refer to them as minor attracted people. You're a molester, you're a nonce, you're a pedophile or pedophile for our Anglo friends. And I refuse to call you anything different. The global community has implored him not to do this, because of course they did. President Mumbly Joe said that his administration will evaluate the implications of this on all aspects of American engagement with Uganda. And you know what that means. It means we might have to invade Uganda for the right to stick things up your butt. And recruitment continues to decline in the United States military for reasons unbeknownst to the literati. How can this be? Why don't people want to fight so that Ugandan gays can put their wieners in each other's butts? Let's check out some comments on that note. Okay. Ponythread says the song specifically sounds like The Opened Way. Yes, I beat Shadow of the Colossus many years ago. I don't remember that song at the top of my head. I mean, the one that I always like is Awakened Power, which is, of course, the music that plays when you start to get the upper hand in the fight. That's the one I always remember. Or Revived Power, is what the song is called. That one I actually do listen to in the gym quite a lot. Ponythrow then says Uganda's president also kept referring to Israel as Palestine during a state visit by the president of Israel, which is based. I don't know if it's based, but it is certainly ballsy. I'll give Museveni that. Anyway, what's really noticeable about this is that Ted Cruz, yes, that is the Republican politician Ted Cruz, immediately and vociferously condemned this. This law is horrific and wrong. This is grotesque and an abomination, he says. Yeah, but the Republicans are totally bigoted and anti-gay, though. Citation needed. And for the record, I'm 100% against this law. I'm very much small L libertarian about this. And that as long as you're in the privacy of your home, I say you can bang whoever you want, however you want, as long as they are a consenting adult. You want to form a 10-man meat parade with an extra dick to go in the ear? As long as everybody consents, yeah, go for it, dude. And I specify privacy of your own home. This is why I refuse to be dragged to gay pride parades despite multiple women asking me to go with them. I'm not about doing it in the streets and scaring the horses. And yes, I'm aware that the gays do complain nowadays about how pride has become some sort of like straight woman carnival, which is a whole different issue, but never mind that. C-Punk Messiah says, of course it's Uganda. Did you ever see the video where they talk about the gays, eating the poo-poo? Yes, I remember that. The preacher was talking about, the fisting going deeper and such. Yeah, that preacher really seemed to have done a lot of research on the topic, but I'm sure that's just a complete coincidence. But yeah, I'm not. Last week I was talking all about homoerotic farce, and I'm not about the pride parade thing. I feel like it's kind of, you know, unnecessary. You guys won, the gays won. Do you need like flapping dong parades anymore? I don't think so. But yeah, I'm against this Uganda thing very much. But at the same time, can the international community, which is to say the rich countries and the US military, which is the attack dog of the rich countries, can the international community accept for 1 second that maybe the rest of the world doesn't want to live like you and maybe you can like leave it alone for once? In other words, yeah, let the heathen have their anti gay laws and leave them be. Let them mind their own business. They don't bother us, and we don't bother them. And let's not pretend that we in the rich countries actually give two damns about human rights, considering how everybody sucks up to the Saudi Arabians. Yeah, despite what the good people think, not everybody wants to be a nice liberal white person, which, the chattering classes think is just the pinnacle of human civilization. Take your neo colonialism elsewhere. Not everybody wants to wife swap and make tofu risotto. I know it's hard to believe, but not everybody wants that. Okay. Daphne Kruger likes to point out that I'm not one of those girls who uses pride parades as like straight girl carnivals. Yeah, I'm very much appreciative of that. Like I've legit had 3 women, actually more like 4, try to drag me to some kind of homoerotic farce, and I politely declined. I made it very clear to them that I'm not about that, but if you want to do that, that's cool. Ponythroat says, scare the horses. I'm not scared, I'm just disgusted. Well, it's an expression, good sir. You know, don't do it in the streets and scare the horses. I believe is the expression. I'm going to look it up right now. The quote is, I don't mind what people do as long as they don't do it in the street and frighten the horses. This quote has a lot of potential sources, like a Mrs. Patrick Campbell, Helen Maud Tree, Oscar Wilde, Washington Irving, Alice Roosevelt Longworth. Let's see. Okay, a partial instance appeared in the Lancaster Daily Intelligencer of Pennsylvania, a newspaper of note in 1879. Taste is taste, as Lincom Fidelius sagely remarks. As long as they don't frighten the horses, it matters little. Yes, Lincom Fidelius was a comical character appearing in the works of Washington Irving. And then there's a Salvation Army ordinance saying, don't frighten the horses. 1910, there was a San Francisco Examiner story claiming that a London socialite said so. Okay, Yes, Mrs. Alice Roosevelt Longworth caused a great, whoop-de-doo in society. Should this lady be smoking cigarettes? If she does, is there any harm, provided she doesn't do it in the street and scare the horses? Yeah, so the first example of it being said in full seems to have come from the 1910 San Francisco Examiner, so I'm going to quote that. Okay. C. Punk Messiah says, what we need is man-of-war style homoeroticism, gay and manly. Yeah, yes, I don't know if man-of-war would be down with being called gay, but yeah, I think that might be nice. And fun fact, actually, speaking of Japan, that is sort of, for whatever reason, the default, gay stereotype, the kind of hairy bear sort of meathead stereotype. I don't know why, but never mind that. Then again, I recall dimly reading somewhere that the whole, flamboyant ponce stereotype of a gay man was pretty much derived from Oscar Wilde, who was very much like that. One wonders what would happen if Walt Whitman was the predominant voice of the gay community in the 1890s, but I digress. Daphne then says she clarifies she meant someone who drags me to places you don't want to go. Okay. Ponythorn says he once knew a guy named Neo who worked at McDonald's. His parents named him that. That is unfortunate. Yeah, please do not name your children weirdo, fantasy names. Anyway, there's a couple more news stories that do actually relate to the Uganda thing, kind of. The first one, relating to the Ugandan side of things, more or less, in the loosest sense, it turns out that something that we all expected to happen actually happened. The American organization Black Lives Matter was total lies and chicanery. In 2 years, they received $90 million in donations and basically pocketed 67% of it. And yes, before any anthropologists get up my ass, I'm aware that most African Americans, or ADOS, are West African, and Uganda is in East Africa, East Central-ish Africa. But I digress. Now, to be fair to BLM, 33% of donations actually going to donations makes them actually better than a lot of charities we can name. The Susan G. Komen Foundation's got what? I think it's 6% of its donations going to cancer research. Yeah, I also believe that the Wounded Warrior Project is a massive scam as well. I say praying that I'm right and that I won't get verbally assaulted by a bunch of middle-aged fuds. But yeah, you probably should have known that BLM was a scam when the woman in charge, Patrice Colors, literally went up and bought a mansion for herself one day. A mansion that's conveniently located in a neighborhood that's 95% white, but then again, that's pretty common for anti-racist crusaders, and by pretty, I mean extremely common. They hate white people, but boy, they just love living around them. And yes, eventually when I start making videos again, I will make a video about all the brown lady academics who really want to get just spit roasted by white colonizers. But that's a whole different issue. Okay. Oh, by the way, need I mention that literally 10 black people are killed by police in this country each year? It's not more than 1,000, and yes, polls do show that leftists believe that there's a low-key genocide of black people going on by police officers. I mean, granted, there are a lot of black people murdered each year in this country, but it's not by the cops, or any white people for that matter. But we'll get back to media-induced fantasies in a little while. Hey, let's take a look at some comments going on. Ponythroat retracted a message. I don't know what it is. I can only assume. But he does ask, does Uganda have enough petrol-soaked tires for the gays that are now illegal? I'm sure they won't have a problem. I mean, if you don't have petrol, you can always get pitch or tar or some other kind of flammable. To be fair, just a regular homosex gets you 10 years in prison, so I don't think they're going to be necklaced immediately. Just the aggravated homosexuality. But anyway, now on the sexual side of things, see, it all ties together. New York Magazine publishes an article titled How to Have Sex in the Communal Living Space, with a picture of a literal longhouse, an Iroquois longhouse, not a Viking longhouse. For those not aware, the longhouse is a metaphor used by extremely online right-wing chuds, which refers to the feminine shackles of society that keep down men in their thumotic urges or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of weird, as pretty much everything is for these kind of people. But considering that the cover image was a literal longhouse, there might be something to it. Might I suggest that you don't have sex in communal living spaces? Like, why would they write an article like this? Could it be that they want to prepare us for living in high-density slum tenements where you can hear every grunt and pant and thrust? I mean, a lot of the culture commentariat really want to live in pestilential third world slums where everybody is in everybody's business. I mean, for us, of course, not for them. No, Matt Iglesias, we're not bringing in 700 million more people. Thanks. And no, I don't care if communal sex living spaces is more in tune with nature and noble savages, man. If it's more in tune with nature to have sex in front of your children, I don't approve of such a thing. I mean, I would certainly not want to see my parents or anyone's parents doing the business. As George Costanza might put it, if I were to see such a thing, there was not enough there was not enough voltage in the world to electroshock me back into coherence. Hey. Pony Throat then goes on to say, murder is still very segregated. Most murder victims are killed by their own race. Yes, very true. Most murder is intra-racial, not interracial, which means within the same race. Most white people are killed by white people. Most black people are killed by black people. I've discussed this many a time. Ponythroat then goes on to say we need to bring back menstruation huts. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what cultures did that specifically. I'll be honest, I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, like I mean, at the very least, can we like go off into like a Sylvan Glen somewhere if we want to have sex? But back to the Dusky Brethren. Apparently, YPPO have phases that are traumatizing. This all kind of ties together if you think about it. But yes, there are white people phases that are traumatizing. Yes, thank you, Black Twitter. I wasn't aware that this concept was a thing. According to some Dorcas Malorcas named Eric Lewis, and this is a direct quote, the little phases white people go through are life-altering experiences for us. Your phases become our triggers, our funerals, our incarceration, our need for therapy. What does he mean by that? I don't know, and he never quite explains. It's like, hey, little Susie got into emo rock for a summer. Whoops, guess I gotta rob a liquor store. Is that what he's getting at? Yeah, boy, it's a good thing I never leaned whole hog into the rockabilly revival scene, or I would have caused black people to get shot by police officers. I mean, currently I'm teaching myself how to juggle and also do some musical instrument repair to expand my business. Oh shit, I accidentally redlined the whole neighborhood. Whoops, there's my phase is making black people's lives worse. I mean, unless I hear otherwise, that's what I'm going to assume he meant. Okay, Pony Throat, giving me the very important information. India, Nepal, and Ethiopia had blood huts. Now I'm going to go look up Yes, there's a whole Wikipedia article on it. Yes, it's okay. Ethiopian Jews put the ladies in those huts. India, others Yap in Micronesia, the Yurok women of a California Native American tribe, as well as the Pais people of Colombia. They use menstruation huts. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm all for that. I'm kidding. No, we don't need to have menstruation huts. Yes, people, occasionally women slough off their uterine lining, and that's okay. Don't sequester them into huts and don't turn it into some kind of weird dancing around the trees woman thing, which is kind of the opposite direction. But speaking of women, in technology news, I have some good news. Perhaps automation isn't going to take everybody's jobs. An eating disorder helpline, and yes, I am assuming that most eating disorders are held by women. Yes, the eating disorder helpline fires its entire staff because they attempted to unionize. And instead, they said, well, we don't need these workers. We can just use chatbots and AI. Then, within 3 days, they immediately stopped doing that when the chatbot said things that were extremely harmful to the end users. Boy, just anything to avoid paying your wages. Sorry. Boy, anything to avoid paying higher wages to your workers. What? I mean, I'm genuinely curious as to what the AI said. The Adeptus Mechanicus, Church of the Creator Machine, or whatever the hell it's called. Beep boop. Get off your ass and exercise, you stupid meatbag. Reading this article from Vice, which is somehow not bankrupt, even though it's going bankrupt. I guess it's still around. Let's see what the chatbot said. Tessa, the chatbot, presumably they gave the bot a fake name so it could, have the illusion of human warmth and empathy, said, perhaps you can lose 1 to 2 pounds a week and reduce your calories by 500 to 1,000 a day. This innocuous statement was apparently too much to deal with. But in all seriousness, I can get why this is a problem. I mean, 95% of the information that would be useful to somebody with an eating disorder could be put into a pamphlet. The other 5% is just warmth and human empathy, which, an actual person would probably be better for. Thou shalt not make machines in the likeness of man, says the Orange Catholic Bible. And once again, Ted Kaczynski is probably smiling right now in his, 23 hours of solitary confinement a day. I seem to say that a lot, which is unsettling, just as unsettling as the numerous Twitter reports I've seen of children saying, click and subscribe and share because they think that's how you say goodbye because parents just put their children in front of YouTube videos as babysitters nowadays. Ponythroat says, stay in the shed until you're normal again, madam. No, I'm not in favor of isolating women. Yes. Ponythroat says, I've used AI. Its abilities are exaggerated, and it's been around for years longer than most people think. I mean, this is only something an out-of-touch boomer would think would work. Well, yeah, I mean, I remember when they tried to do AI on, Twitter in around 2013, and it was immediately memed into, being a neo-Nazi within, an hour. So AI is extremely susceptible to human programming, dare I say. And, AI art still has flaws. But, I think AI will cause some problems, students using AI to write their papers and teachers using AI to grade those papers. And things like, voice AI being used to trick people into, petty scams and things. So I think it's going to be a problem, but it's going to be more like, fast-talking, grifting horseshit rather than, Skynet taking over. And of course, it will not be the Butlerian jihad, because that is, well, I mean, I feel like, well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, the Butlerian jihad was probably due to, things like people being put out of work and like petty scam horseshit, rather than, total Terminator-esque robot war, where somebody could have told Brian Herbert that, but that's neither here nor there. Seabunk Messiah says, I have no mouth and I must scream is the worst case scenario with AI. Yes, it is. But to be fair, I think it's going to be more like a dystopian, consumerist hellscape where everybody's getting scanned for like AI porn women, and doctors going to hospitals don't know how to do anything because they use AI to write all their written exams and papers. So, kind of like what we have now. Pointy Throat says students using AI could be easily avoided with restructuring the way classes work. Yes, I mean, you could very easily just, have everybody do paper again. I mean, it's tougher for teachers to read, but it does require the students to actually think. And, I'm officially going to not be a teacher after June. So once, maybe I'll get a new teaching job. I have some, like, kind of museum jobs lined up. So thankfully I won't need to grade, but yeah, we'll see. We shall see. It's going to be pretty crappy in the future. But in a dull, sort of apathetic way, not a, total dystopian way. AI is only as good as the people programming it, and humanity is not a shining paragon of functionality. Considering that, going back to Twitter silliness, there are literal tankies, which is to say Western communists, who literally defend Lysenkoism. And as a biology teacher, I want to put my head through the wall for this. Yeah, so some other Twitter Dorcas Malorcas named Kareem Ibn Rashid says, Lysenko firmly proved the concept of the gene is superfluous and it permanently destroyed eugenics. I'm hoping he's trolling, but the fact that he was so vehemently defending this suggests that he's not. But yeah, Lysenko permanently destroyed eugenics. He permanently destroyed a lot of things, like 4 million Ukrainian lives. But yes, he goes on to claim, Rashid, not Tofim Lysenko, he goes on to claim that Gregor Mendel came up with genetic theory as a way to justify racism or some nonsense like that. Gregor Mendel did not. Unfortunately, genes were used to justify racism by pseudoscientists, but that was not Gregor Mendel's intention. For those of you who are not aware, Trofim Lysenko, besides possessing a admittedly very chiseled jawline, he was a half-wit agronomist in Stalinist-era Soviet Union, who, among other brain blasts, forced the farmers to plant seeds right on top of each other because plants of the same class would help each other like proper communist seedlings and cultivars. Then, whoops, he accidentally caused famines that killed millions of people, which tankies deny, of course. Tankies, of course, like to blame America for anything that goes wrong in the communist world, and caused massive food shortages, somehow turning the breadbasket of Eastern Europe, the black soil of Ukraine, into a basket case, and needed to import food from evil capitalist America and Britain, by the way. Lysenko also completely ignored the groundbreaking research on fruit flies from the USA, the workhorse of modern genetic studies due to their very short lifespans and high fertility rates, making them model species for gene research. Why? Because the fruit fly research came from America, and this is capitalist and therefore bad. Obviously. Everyone I don't like is an imperialist stooge, herp-a-derp. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, Maoist China adapted Lysenkoism in the 50s, and they proceeded to run the country into the ground too, killing at least 10 million, and some say up to 50 million Chinese people. I mean, to be fair, killing all the birds, that was Mao's idea, not Lysenko's, so he can't be blamed for that, at least. Okay. Commenting here, Ponythroat says, I don't know why people refer to the voices as AI. There's nothing intelligent about a better type of text-to-speech engine. Ponythroat then says, well, with regards to the voice thing, I think you might be able to actually get like some kind of AI, like you can type in prompts and the AI voice can do it. I've never actually used it, so I don't know off the top of my head. I do think it's really funny when people who use AI art, they're like, I'm a real artist. Like, I have to think up prompts to put in. If you don't put in the prompts exactly, it doesn't give you what you want. Yeah, because, typing in prompts and thinking about, things to type for like 20 minutes is the same as, actually painting or drawing. I mean, I'm a complete hack when it comes to painting and drawing, as you can clearly see, but even my little cartoons take some amount of actual skill. Okay, eugenics. Ponythroat says eugenics is the idea that the government can be trusted with deciding who's allowed to have children. Yeah, I'm not in favor of it just for that. Not because it's a good humanity can't be bred. Your genes magically don't work on people. I mean, they could, and it could work, but it would require massive dictatorial government control, and I am not in favor of such a thing. Right? Ponythroat says between Lysenko and Mao, I'm starting to think that communist academics who've never worked a day in their lives are not the most agriculturally literate people. Yes, yes. Mao Zedong was a librarian. He was not a farmer. And it's worth pointing out that many geneticists and agronomists and actual farmers in the Soviet Union were very vocal about their disapproval of this horse shit. They were all immediately gulagged or executed. But, the far left is the party of science, clearly. Yep, they've never done any kind of wrongdoing with science. They didn't do that. They didn't use psychiatric wards as weapons to house enemies of the state. Nope. They didn't kill people with glasses or anything like that. But, the communist academics who claim this shit are just modeling themselves on their progenitor Karl Marx, who was also somebody who never worked a day in his life, spent all his time mooching on Friedrich Engels' couch and knocking up chambermaids. Rick says, but Larsen, Walter Duranty, said the famine was exaggerated. He got a Nobel Prize. Yes, he did. Occasionally people want the Nobel Committee to take away his prize. I'm kind of in favor of that, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, to be honest, I think Jimmy Durante would have been a better reporter, but that's also here or there. Smile when your heart is aching, and so forth. C-Punk Messiah says, I guess mass murder is okay as long as you're not a fascist. Well, clearly, tankies, from what I've seen, they will literally say, it's the old thing of like, it didn't happen. It's a good thing it did happen. It's like there weren't mass murders in the Ukraine or China, and if they were, they would have been fucking kulaks and wreckers and bourgeois, so it's okay. Ponythroat says Chinese peasantry trusted the science. Yes, they did, and look where that got them. Tony Gilbert says, hey, Larsen, how's it going? It's going pretty good, Tony. Thank you. On the other hand, with regards to Lysenkoism, it did kill a lot of communists, so maybe he wasn't that bad. Yeah, I don't know what the, Kareem Rashid Effendi's academic background is, but he has some supporters in the Twitter thread, and wouldn't you know it, none of them have biology or agronomy or any sort of scientific background at all. Yes, I want to know what Moon Dancer X, the writer of ad copy for a crystal store in Central Park West, thinks about genetics. Yeah, people still defend Lysenkoism in 2023. Wow, that really upsets me. Makes me want to do something pleasant to take my mind off the idiocy. But alas, I've got to keep doing this stream. Just kidding, I love doing streams. Bislankovich says, Did you just sing to Mrs. Calabash? I sure did. Ah-cha-cha-cha-cha. Oh, God, I'm old. Mentally. Yes, I wish Jimmy Durante told his brother Walter to report on the damn famines accurately. And yeah, I'm like 90% sure that Walter Durante was not related to Jimmy Durante. Well, sir, they spell and pronounce their names completely differently. And I got to cram in my obligatory Simpsons reference right there. But anyway, let's move on to some other Twitter communist silliness, because defending Lysenkoism wasn't face palm worthy enough, and yet it is related, kind of, in regards to modern day communists that live in Western countries not knowing anything about their movement. There's a surprising amount of tankies who are under the impression that communist governments are totes down with the homosex. Trans lib is workers lib, says a meme, and of course uses like the Chad yes face, the meme. Yeah, trans lib is workers lib. No. Yeah, it's the communist governments are totally down with homosexuals and the LGBT community. Not. Yeah, nobody tell them about the literal prison island for gays off the coast of Cuba. Yeah, let's see what some other famous communists had to say about the subject. Karl Marx says they are worse than pedophiles. Joseph Stalin says homosexuality is a bourgeois vice. Mao Zedong said the same thing, more or less. He basically said it's a perversion of the capitalists. Fidel Castro and Che Guevara were all for putting them in forced labor camps to literally beat the gay out of them. I mean, do you people not know the history of your own movement? You'd think that being a communist would make you want to read about the history of communism, but I guess not. I mean, I've known some people who were communists, and like, even they'll acknowledge that those things happened. Of course, the excuse is always that it wasn't real communism, but that's neither here nor there. Amazing how that just seems to keep happening, but whatever. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, "Hey Larsen, how do you feel about legal weed?" Uh, I'm okay with it within limits. I mean, obviously, I don't think you should be operating heavy machinery on weed, and there is some data which shows that it might lead that long-term like abuse of weed might lead to like brain damage. But yeah, if you do it once in a while, like I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's not really something I'm interested in all that much. But yeah, like again, if you do it in the privacy of your home, go nuts. In fact, I've honestly said like I think we should legalize like all natural drugs. Ban the hard stuff like ban crack and heroin and stuff. But yeah, like just let people legally do weed and mushrooms and like pot. And you could also like legalize acid and LSD. And honestly, I think society would be better off. Just treat it like alcohol. Don't let them operate heavy machinery. And just do it in the privacy of your own home. Totally, actually, yeah, you could totally legally do weed and natural stuff in person. And yeah, like I say, sort of do like a soft decriminalization of even the hard stuff. Do like crack and heroin and stuff in your home, and ideally you'll overdose, and the problem will work itself out. Yes, Liam Roddy, the war on drugs was a failure. I agree very much. I mean, both in terms of the United States failing to suppress it, and also the Mexican government's fighting a losing war against the cartels right now. Tony Gilbert says it's legal here come July 1st. I don't know where here is. I believe it's already legal here in New Jersey. Ponythroat says just because you have a degree doesn't mean you know farming better than some guy named Cletus. I mean, farming is a legitimate skill. Like, it's not something any moron can do, despite what Michael Bloomberg thought. He's like, hey, just put things in the ground and then food comes out. No, like, it's agronomy. There's a reason why agronomy is, like, literally something you can get a graduate degree in college. I believe Rutgers has like a agronomy degree. Let me look that up right now. Yeah, there's Rutgers University, Agricultural and Food Systems. It's an undergraduate program. I think there's a horticultural program. Let's see. So yeah, there's an undergraduate degree. Okay, yeah, it's not a graduate degree, but it is an undergraduate degree. Yeah, it's like cultivating food and raw materials, land and soil chemistry. It is a legitimate scientific discipline. So I've never been one of those people who's like, yeah, the fucking farmers, you plow the field. Like, I heap respect upon the name of the farmers. Like, where the hell do you think your food comes from, you moron? Tony Gilbert then goes on to say Che Guevara was kind of an asshole. Yes, he was. Speaking of farming, Che Guevara was under the impression that he knew more than the actual farmers of Cuba how to grow the sugar cane. He did not. And he ran that industry into the ground, too. C-Punk Messiah says, if you want to take your mind off of shit, watch an old Jewish man bite a nail in half. I assume you're referring to Joseph Greenstein, the mighty Adam. I'm well familiar with his exploits, sir. Okay, C-Punk Messiah says, I have the meme you're reading open, Larsen. Liam Roddy says, I'm crippled and I use medical marijuana for pain daily. Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, I'd certainly think if we had been legalizing marijuana instead of doing the opiates, we wouldn't have the massive fentanyl crisis going on. Pointy Throat says, it's only illegal because it would have harmed the paper industry. Yes, thank you, William Randolph Hearst. Okay, Tony Gilbert says, hey, Larsen. Did anybody archive the Pink Man's videos? I am not aware. I mean, he made very good videos, concurrently with myself. I always tried to not overlap with him doing like Kung fails, but now that he's not around, I can do all his topics. Ha ha ha. Tony Gilbert says, I have a card, so I'm legal, baby. Hey, good for you. Tony Gilbert says weed was only illegal because of that dick Henry Anslinger. I'm not familiar with him off the top of my head. Let me, Yes, Harry Anslinger, yes, was a United States government official. He was the first head of the Bureau of Narcotics. Yes, he was characterized as a early proponent of the war on drugs. Yes, very much so. I mean, come on. George Washington grew hemp on his plantation. I mean, it might have been just industrial hemp. I mean, I don't know if George Washington ever passed the bong around, but it's a possibility. Yeah, Tony Gilbert then goes on to point out the racism of Harry Anslinger. Yes, that was a major part of his demonization of marijuana and other narcotics. Rick says, I found a lot of entertainment in the failed garden in the Chaz. Oh yeah, that like cardboard hunk of shit where they were growing like lettuce and things. As if every other successful civilization in the history of the world didn't start farming with heavy carbohydrates. Like, do people not understand like how calories work? I mean, there's a reason why every civilization, utilized as their main staple crop things like, wheat, barley, rice, potatoes, quinoa, like heavy carbohydrates. Like, people need to live. You're not going to live on lettuce alone. Ponythroat says, Count Dankula makes videos about people you've already done videos on. Yeah, well, that's his business. I have standards. I try not to overlap with things people have already done. I mean, there's a part of me which always, maybe this is just an excuse on my part for not being as successful as I could be, but I'm always like, I have too much integrity to copy what people do. Well, you're not going to be successful if you have integrity, sir. Tony Gilbert then says, hey, Larsen should do more Kung Fail. Just saying. Yes, I know. When the school year is over and I have some free time, I will do more proper videos. Because as much as I do love doing live streams, and I will do live streams every week, they don't get particularly many videos, as my dad is so keen to remind me when, he tells me, like, why aren't you as successful as you should be? You need to make more money. Kidding. Just kidding, Dad. I know you listen. But yeah, I mean, I was much more successful with the videos. And most of the income that I do get on AdSense still comes from the videos, like the proper scripted videos. So, yes, I should do more of those, and I will do more of them when I have more free time. Like, I was just looking at Razorfist's channel the other day. Like, he gets, like, hundreds of thousands of views on his scripted videos, but his live streams get, like, 10,000, 20,000. And that's pretty similar to the pattern I get. My most successful video is the Ashita Kim video, 150,000 views. Most of my videos get, like a couple thousand. And then, and then these live streams got like a couple hundred. All right, let's see. Seapunk Messiah says he loves strongman training. He wants to incorporate that. Yes, strongman training is great. Okay. Yes. Yeah, Larsen the Pink Man had good videos. Thank you, Tony Gilbert. Actually, just got a very positive comment on my video on Marky Mark's workout video. I mean, looking at my analytics, I've very clearly seen that the Kung fails and the workout fails and the PUA holes are the only videos I have that get like real traction. A little heads up, I'm going to be planning on doing videos about like, the state of education in this country and how much it sucks, which is basically an excuse for me to post videos of brappies beating the shit out of teachers. So maybe that'll do well. I mean, at the very least, it's certainly unique in the annals of YouTube shit posters. But much like manthropology, it might just be something I need to do rather than something that'll make me successful. Ponythroat says George Washington grew hemp, so his farm tools could have nice necklaces once they got too old to work. That is a very dark joke, sir. Liam Roddy says George Washington enjoyed getting baked with Martha and listening to an entire Fish album and eating cookies. Yes, I can only imagine. Ponythroat says I should bring back the Brawling Arcade. That's just me. The video game videos got absolutely dick in terms of reception, so I don't really do those anymore. Tony Gilbert then says he forgot PUA holes. Yeah, I haven't done that in a while just because I kind of ran out of material. I mean, there's not that many. I kind of went through all like the classic like books and videos. I mean, who else is left? Like Andrew Tate, I guess I could do a video on. That's about it. Okay, Tony Gilbert says the education system is bad. The major city here failed. Yeah, I mean, Baltimore, well, you're in Maryland. Yeah, Baltimore's a goddamn crap hole. Sorry, no offense, but yeah. And then, San Francisco, I talked about on the live stream, they stopped grading, and surprise, it didn't really help matters. Hey, Liam Roddy said something. It was retracted. That's a shame. But hey, I have one more bit of communist idiocy. I mean, it's certainly not the last word on the subject because communist idiocy will never stop. But it is the last word we'll do today on it. An anarchist meme I saw said, "If nature is unjust, we will change nature." This was posted by a communist Twitter account, despite the fact that there's very clearly the big anarchy A on it. Unlike this person, I'm at least aware that anarchism and communism are two very different philosophies. Karl Marx and Peter Bakunin were not fond of each other, possibly because Bakunin wouldn't let Marx crash on his couch and eat all his Pop-Tarts. I cannot stress how much of a lazy fail-son moron Marx was. And also, it's Mikhail Bakunin. For some reason, I was mixing up Mikhail Bakunin and Peter Kropotkin, who was also an anarchist. Well, it's amazing how much I know about these political philosophies I don't care about. I took history of the Soviet Union in college. Thank you very much. Okay. Ponythroat says, Andrew Tate, a man who sells the idea that 15-year-olds can solve all their problems by becoming wiggers. Yes, yes. I mean, you can also solve your problem by looking like a buff Ren Hoek, but that's neither here nor there. Oh, and speaking of Ren Hoek, I recently became aware that the lovely Daphne had never even heard of Ren and Stimpy. Apparently, they didn't get it in South Africa, and I just told her that's a story and a half, which I've never told her, but I guess we'll get on that sometime. Daphne Kruger says, please know Andrew Tate. He deserves everything he got, but he deserves no more attention. Well, obviously, I'm not going to praise him. I'm going to make fun of his teachings, just like I did with every other PUA hack I profiled. But the reason I mentioned Andrew Tate is that I don't think there's really any more, like, PUA guys left except for him. At least not that I've seen. I mean, I could dig through, like, the... Actually, I don't think I can anymore, because, like, there's the PUA archives, like, which I don't know if there's any more, there's a lot more books and stuff that I could get. Like, I don't know if I can, they might be, like, behind paywalls now. Okay, apparently they're not. I don't know, but, like, does anybody care about these people? Like, who the hell's... Oh, wait. Let's see. I mean, yeah, you got, like, a Derek Rake book, Gary Brodsky book. I've done them. Intense, done him. Vince DiCarlo, done him. I mean, nobody gives a shit about any of these people anymore. Like, the only person who is selling any kind of, like, PUA shit is Andrew Tate. And I gotta go where the hits will be. Okay. Let's see. Ponythroat asked, did I ever do one on Roosh V? No, I did not. As you all recall, I did, write some articles for Return of Kings about fitness. I was never entirely down with, like, Roosh's shit. And then Roosh kind of went nuts and, like, went on mushrooms and, like, became a weirdo Eastern Orthodox guy. Yeah, I don't know what the hell he's doing nowadays. I haven't spoken to him in years. Tony Gilbert says Baltimore is like Newark for me. Like, Baltimore is to Maryland what Newark is to New Jersey. Unless you're up to no good or going to a ball game, you don't go. That's the sad thing is Newark does have good stuff. Like, the NJ Pack has, like, good, music concerts and stuff. I actually used to play in the NJ Pack when I was a teenager. But yeah, I mean, Newark does have some good restaurants and things, but yeah, they're much like Baltimore. Actually, there's a few good spots just surrounded by an ocean of shite. Larsen asks, have I been to the Battleship New Jersey? No, I have not. Okay. Tony H.P. Lovecraft and Marx would get along, says Ponythroat. Well, yeah, and that they're both kind of fail sons who didn't want to work for a living. But at least H.P. Lovecraft could actually write halfway decently. Tony Gilbert says, screw H.P. Lovecraft the bigot. Unfortunately, I do very much like Lovecraft's writing. I don't care for his personal views. But, that's also something I can't say about Marx. I don't care for his writing or his personal views. Karl Marx was pretty racist as well. Also anti-Semitic. Ponythroat says, these days nobody's getting any TV in South Africa. Well, that's a whole different issue. I mean, we all know ESCOM sucks, the big one. Okay, C-Punk Messiah says, be like Conan the Barbarian, not Andrew the Peacock. Yeah, I mean, okay, before anybody gets on my case, yeah, Andrew Tate could probably kick my ass. I mean, he was a champion of some Bush League kickboxing league, which is still more championships than I've ever won. Doesn't change the fact that he's a garbage human being. Ponythroat says, all the PUAs have transitioned to being clickbait YouTubers. Yes, they have. Yeah, I've a couple of the guys I've done videos on have kind of transitioned to that shit. Ponythroat says Roosh now practices Rasputin maxing. Yes, he does. And hey, I mean, Rasputin had some riz, as the kids say. He was banging all the duchesses and things, which might just be because the Russian ladies wanted to slum it. I mean, rich ladies do often like a bit of the rough and tumble. Bill Slankovich says, I did the Baltimore Book Festival. Outside of the Inner Harbor, it reminds me of The Wire. Yeah, yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, back to the anarchist meme thing. Yes, besides Marx, not being allowed to crash at Bakunin's house. It's like, hey, Engels, I need some more money. Yeah. The meme has that phrase, if nature is unjust, we will change nature, followed by some kind of cartoon person, presumably a woman, but you never know with far leftists. This person in the cartoon is in their underwear swinging a flag. It might possibly be a bikini bottom. It's like, let's just say bikini briefs and a t-shirt swinging a flag. Yeah, declaring that you can change nature in all caps while throwing some sort of autistic shit fit without pants on. Yeah, that about sums up the far left. Okay, but now we're going to go from the far left to the far right. In terrorism news, attempted neo-Nazi terrorist of Indian ethnicity attempts to truck bomb the White House. He was foiled. In case you didn't hear that correctly, I'm going to say that again. Indian neo-Nazi, Sai Kandula. Man, white Americans are so damn lazy they even have to hire brown people to be white supremacists these days. They really do the jobs we don't want, I guess. Either that or diversity, inclusion, and equity initiatives have even filtered down to the National Socialists. I mean, I guess that whole Indische Legion that Hitler tried to raise to fight the British, that was sensible after all. Either that, or this is some sort of false flag operation gone terribly wrong, which I don't think. Yeah. All in all, I guess Hitler's assessment of the Indische Legion was right. These Jains and Hindus can't kill a fly. They're not going to kill any Englishmen. They won't kill any American government types either. Yeah, but speaking of the other kind of Indian, people were asked in polls whether or not Native Americans were dancing about the trees in peace and harmony before the evil white people came, and a disturbing number of people agreed with the notion. Like, even people who identify as very conservative agreed 47% of the time. As an archaeologist, I assure you they did not. Hey kids, let's learn about the Crow Creek Massacre, which has hundreds of stacked and scalped skulls from literally 100 years before Columbus ever came to the Western Hemisphere. If I'm remembering my dates correctly, let's look this bad boy up. Let's see, yes, mid 14th century. So that's the 1300s, at least 100 years before Columbus ever came. Yes, many of the bodies are missing limbs, a lot of scalping, decapitation, dismemberment. Wow, 90% of the villagers suffered some kind of scalping. That's quite a lot. But, I'm going to assume that white people did not beam scalp arrays across the ocean to teach scalping. And yeah, of course I'm not saying white people didn't do bad things too. I mean, speaking of, I finally, a mere 40 years after the fact, finally started reading Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, which I have some issues with, namely because I just don't think Cormac McCarthy writes well. Like, for the love of God, man, use punctuation. But Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm under no illusions about manifest destiny, but you know, again, let's not pretend in this magical elf shit. I'm sorry, but the human sacrifices will stop. I should have pulled that meme up, but I'm not going to. Okay. Ponythroat says they had hit the barrier, a fence, the eternal enemy of the immigrant, referring to the Indian aborted truck bomb guy. Ponythroat says the Crow Creek massacre was caused by a series of improbable haircut accidents. Yes, hundreds of them all at once. Anybody who says otherwise probably doesn't even think Cleopatra was black. Indeed, sir. Yeah, yeah, my God, Cormac McCarthy, like, do you not know what quotation marks are? It's strange because like the stuff happening in the book is interesting, but it's like I literally have to like kind of take a step back and clear my head every page or so because it's just this word jizz that he spews all over the page, and it's like it's kind of hard to break. It's hard to break up with my eyes, like who's talking and who's doing what. Punctuation marks exist for a reason, sir. Like I know you're trying to do some kind of weird dreamlike state of like stream of consciousness writing, but I gotta say, like it's making the book difficult to read. That's kind of the same problem I have with Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe. And that, from what I've gathered from like the plot synopsis, it's interesting stuff. Like stuff is happening that's interesting, but I just don't like the way he writes. Maybe I should force myself to read that at some point. But anyway, let's move on with anthropology and not talk about literature. Yeah, it's really funny to me how cultural anthropologists will swear up and down they don't believe in noble savage, Jean-Jacques Rousseau stuff. I mean, I was told that verbatim by one of my professors at Rutgers that like, Rousseau noble savage stuff is patronizing and it's wrong. And then they literally believe in it every chance they get. They just don't use the term noble savage. Yeah, seriously, like you want to make some money in an unscrupulous way. Like make up a story about some gentle tribe that lives naked in the woods and doesn't have violence and worships mother goddesses and has sex in the longhouse. And like shitlibs will just forklift big pallets of money to you. I mean, unfortunately, my intellect does not lend itself well to conning, so I don't know how I can make money off such a thing. You have to have some kind of proof, like Ferdinand Marcos making up stories about the gentle Tassidae who lived in the trees so he could establish nickel mines in the jungle. And, while we're on it, spare me the crap out. No, but they ate every part of the animal. Wow, they ate every part of the animal. So do Chinese people, but nobody praises them for it. I mean, so do white people for that matter. You ever heard of head cheese or scrapple or haggis or like marrow on toast? That's what you do when you're poor and every day is a struggle to survive. You eat every scrap that you can. Once again, I have to point out that the United States military would not name its war machines after Native American tribes if they were pacifists who just rolled over, okay? They weren't. All right, look at some comments here. Nothing. Wonderful. And this actually brings us conveniently to the pop culture news, and it is directly relevant. There's a new video game coming out that IGN wrote about, and it might be pretty cool if they don't mess it up, which they probably will. Reports IGN, which is a series of letters that you can't spell ignorance without, by the way, and I'll get to that in a second. And I quote IGN, play as an Aztec withstanding the Spanish conquistadors in the first-person action survival RPG, Ecumene Aztec. The video footage they show clearly shows you're in a third-person viewpoint, not a first-person viewpoint. I don't know how you made that mistake. Like, okay, first of all, do the people at IGN know anything about video games? I mean, there's a reason why amongst gamers the joke is that you can't spell ignorance without IGN, but you don't have to prove that statement, guys. Like, look, I understand that video game journalism is essentially the short bus of journalism, but still, you'd think an alleged reporter would know the basics of the topic they're reporting upon. And yes, Dean Takahashi being incapable of beating the tutorial of Cuphead will never stop being funny to me. Well, there's like a platform, and then there's another platform. Like, how do I jump to it? Jesus Christ, man. But anyway, what to say about this game, Ecumene Aztec? Personally, I think the idea is great. I think there should be more games with Native American protagonists, especially pre-Columbian Native Americans. I mean, we got 3 great Turok dinosaur hunter games, but it just ain't enough. So, there's a potential there for a good game, but will they exercise that potential? To be honest, the game looks pretty crappy, at least visually. I mean, it might just be like alpha testing footage that needs to be souped up. But, yeah, the graphics look a bit wonky. And, yeah, I'll just say it. Having to play as a loincloth-wearing warrior in a third-person behind-the-back viewpoint is not something that enthuses me. Oh boy, you get to look at a man's naked ass for 20 hours. Okay, let's check out some comments here. Pony Throat says, after having a message retracted, I would rather go to a BLM riot and yell Wakanda ain't real. Yes. Ponythroat says you can't spell ignorance without you can't spell ignorance without IGN. You can't spell cancer without the ANC. I see what you did there, sir. Seapunk Messiah said, did you ever hear the journalist who got angry because you could spare the lives of German soldiers in the sniper games? I did not hear that, but that seems like right up their alley. Ponythroat says, we got 2 great Turok games in Turok 3. Excuse me, sir, are you forgetting Rage Wars? Yeah, I know Rage Wars was just some multiplayer, like, combat game. It didn't have a real story mode, but it's still pretty good. It played good. Turok 3 had, great potential, but it was not, it needed more work. Like, I think you could go back and actually, like, kind of fix the problems Turok 3 had, because, like, the core is there for a good game. It just, wasn't executed well. And incidentally, I think that's what, like, remakes should be. Like, remakes should be taking, good ideas with flawed executions and making them better. Like, like the movies, like The Thing and The Fly are examples of remakes done well because they took, good ideas and crappy execution and made them better. And we can just ignore Turok Evolution and that 2008 Turok and the Turok Son of Stone cartoon movie was a pile of ass. Yeah. And maybe next time when they try to reboot Turok, they can stop confusing Tall Set with Joshua Fireseed. Yes, I did play the original Nintendo 64 Turok. But more to the point, will this game, the Aztec game, be full of the message? Like, for example, are they going to ignore the hundreds of thousands of natives who sided with the conquistadors because they weren't fond of being captured for human sacrifice by the Aztecs? I mean, the game is still apparently in development, so maybe they will. Maybe there will be 2 campaigns, one Spanish and one Aztec. I mean, I used to have a American Civil War-based shooting game. You could play as both the Union and Confederate soldiers. I mean, I think that'd be pretty interesting. And I think the idea is great. Let's just see if they execute it right. Ponythroat says Rage Wars was okay. Not being on internet-capable systems killed it. I mean, to be fair, how the hell are you going to get the Nintendo 64 to be playing on the internet? For that record, how are you going to get, like, any console or any kind of online gaming in 1999? And I know they had, like, LANs and stuff, and what they have, like Counter-Strike, I guess they had. But yeah, that would not have gone well. And yes, I know that like the Sega Dreamcast did have very primitive online play, which actually released in '99. But that's neither here nor there. C-Punk Messiah says Torok, T-Hawk, and Nightwolf peak NA masculinity. Don't forget Chief Thunder, sir. Ponythroat says Torok 3 should have been released on the Nintendo 64. Should have been next gen. I think so too. I mean, yeah, they could have taken a couple extra years to develop it and really polish it. And yeah, I from what I gather, like they did kind of rush it out because Half-Life had just come out, and they wanted to kind of, piggyback off that and kind of put in similar features to Half-Life. And fortunately, Turok 3 Oblivion, what is it? Shadows of Oblivion. Yeah, it ended on a massive cliffhanger, which will never get resolved ever. Ponythroat says Nintendo 64 was capable of internet only in Japan with the disk drive. I did not know that. All right, so let's check out some comments here. No more new comments. Now let's get to some celebrity news. In celebrity news, something that was going all ablaze on Twitter is that Al Pacino is 82 years old, and he's expecting a child with his 29-year-old girlfriend, model Noor Al-Fala. With a name like that, I presume she's of Persian ethnicity. And, yeah, a lot of people are really upset at this. And by people, I of course mean a certain subset of women who get furious at the thought of older men dating younger women. Dare I say, they're coming down on him! Yes, I can see it's a 53-year age gap. I can do arithmetic. But why do these hags keep saying, oh, this is basically pedophilia? No, it's not pedophilia. A 29-year-old woman is not a child. I think the woman is intelligent enough and a mature adult enough to make her own decisions. I mean, I can't understand. I mean, I'm saying I don't understand. I mean, I've never spoken to the woman. I can't tell you why she's doing this. I'm going to assume they're in a happy and loving relationship. This is child number 4 for Michael Corleone. But again, I can't speak for her concerns. But when asked about why he's siring a child at his age, Pacino presumably said, "'Cause she's got a great ass!" Yes, I am using this news as an excuse to do as many Al Pacino impressions as I can, very badly. Also, fun fact, Robert De Niro recently had kid number 7, I believe. So upon seeing that, I assume Pacino was like, "Bobby, I'm becoming a father too!" Oh, don't judge me for doing Al Pacino impressions. He's basically been doing impressions of himself since Scent of a Woman. Okay. Let's see. Ponythroat says, I played Turok 2 Seeds of Evil internet multiplayer back in the day. The PC version had. It was playable on dial-up. I heard that the original PC version of Seeds of Evil was kind of crappy. I do actually have the remake, which was pretty good. But that's neither here nor there. Ponythroat says, Noor Al-Fala is a gold digger, not in the same way a Congolese child miner is. Well, that thought did cross my mind as I went way out of register for the Al Pacino impression. I apologize for that. I guess I shouldn't be doing impressions, an hour and 20 minutes into a stream. My throat is tired. But, I wish them the best. And yes, I would apologize for saying that Al Pacino has been doing impressions of himself for the past 30 years, but I'm not going to. He has. Some women, they get really mad at the whole age gap thing. I say as I'm a 32-year-old, soon to be married to a 28-year-old. Oh my God, an age gap. Says JZux, JZUX on Twitter. Dating apps to show you age ranges. I want to know which 30-year-old dudes are hunting 19-year-olds. And everybody in the thread was like, Yas Queen, slay. Okay, fair enough. But if a man was to say, like, dating apps should show women's weights and BMI, the entire country would grind to a screeching halt. Just saying. Yeah, thank God I'm done with dating apps, let me tell you. I'm going to settle into a very long and happy marriage. Thank you very much. Okay. Pony Throat says the Turok 2 PC port was not like a terrible version of the game. It was exactly the Nintendo 64 version, but a PC game was no excuse for some of those limitations. I see, a direct port. You know what always annoyed me about Turok 2? There was that gun which like literally did no damage. And that confused me really bad as a kid. And finally, more in pop culture, and speaking of arrested psychosexual nonsense, a Twitter thread I saw was discussing the fallout of the infamous Spider-Man story, Spider-Man One More Day, which the character in comic form has never quite recovered from. The movies have chosen to ignore that completely, of course, but eventually they're just going to burn through interesting stories, and they're going to have to come to it at some point. Either that or the Clone Saga, which is also a complete debacle. But yeah, I bring this up because I kind of want to address like how this sort of shows everything that's wrong with like modern American popular culture. Many other channels have discussed One More Day, so I will be brief. I believe it came out in 2006, part of that Marvel Civil War arc. Aunt May, Spider-Man's aunt, was shot and she was put on life support. Mephisto, the Marvel Universe's satanic figure, comes to the old webhead and says, essentially, I'll save your aunt's life in exchange for your marriage to Mary Jane, which had been going on since the 80s. You know, whatever, it's some reality warping shit. Despite the advice of everybody, including Aunt May herself, who sensibly said, I'm a 90-year-old woman, just enjoy your life and let me be at peace, Peter sells out his marriage, going, Nyarah! On the page, by the way. I'm not joking, it was written like Nyrargh, Nyrarg. He undoes 2 decades of storylines and character development and returns to being a loser man-child living in his aunt's basement. So I bring this up, and this is where the story gets really interesting. It's from a behind-the-scenes editorial standpoint. So why would the editors and writers at Marvel Comics do such a thing? Joe Quesada, then editor-in-chief, believed that having concrete events in the life of a character makes them less marketable and interesting. Then the current editor-in-chief who replaced Joe Quesada, Tom Brevoort, said that the Spider-Man franchise is about youth. Instead of, with great power comes great responsibility, as if that's not literally like the most important theme literally spelled out, which is what previous editors-in-chief like Tom DeFalco would have said. And also some other guys said that, some other editor, Stan something or other. So in other words, the two editors were and are under the impression that nobody in their audience could relate to being a married husband and father. So, yeah, let's just throw 30 years of storyline out the window and just make him a loser again. Bravo, way to have zero respect for your goddamn audience. This right here shows why superheroes are going down the shitter as a genre, and I specify American pop culture as a whole. Because the people writing them are goddamn hacks who can either make new characters or make interesting changes to the old characters. This is why we got to make alternate realities and multiverses and retcons, because nothing means anything, no change, it's just status quo all around. And with that, my prepared remarks are done. I'll give you a minute to discuss amongst yourselves. Okay. I'll read some comments while you're mulling this over. Ponythroat says the PC version had weird stuff, like the character conforming to slopes to make aiming with analog sticks easier, a bunch of other stuff to give the player motion sickness, and typing in names using an on-screen keyboard and heavy distance fog, despite fixing that being as easy as changing one number in the code. Was the gun that did no damage the trank rifle? I remember it was some kind of like laser gun. I know there was the trank rifle, but I gotta look this up now. Yes, there is a Torok Wikia. Let's see. Let's see. You got the charged dart rifle is what I was thinking of. Like even as a kid, I think I could understand what what a tranquilizer rifle was. Hey, let's move on. Yes, Ponythroat says the charged dart rifle, aka the upgraded trank gun. Indeed. Yes, I'm officially done with my prepared remarks. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a minute. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat says the charged dart gun was quite powerful. It stunned pretty much every enemy for like 30 seconds. I don't know, it didn't seem to work that way for me. Maybe I wasn't using it right. Then Ponythroat says, Larsen, are you a cerebral bore? Yes, very much so. Ian Kempster says, hello all. Hello yourself, sir. You just came in time for the ending. We're doing kibbles and bits now until the end. So this is where you say your last piece, and I make myself some coffee. Okay, doesn't seem like anybody has anything else to say. So for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.